Hello friend, it's Lynn from Feather Song Crochet, and today we're going to be hexagoning, if that's a word. I think it is. This is a follow-up to the purse that I made, the hexagon purse that I made a couple months ago. Um, what I didn't show you in that first video was how to actually do the hexagon puff stitch uh, project. So today we're going to go over how to make the hexagon. 1, 2, 3. There's 4 rows of it. So that will be the prequel to what this video was about, if that makes sense. Because this video up here goes over connecting the hexagons, sewing them together, putting in the lining in the purse, attaching the strap, and sewing the last stitches together at the opening and so forth. So stay tuned, and we will be making some hexagons and blocking them. So stay tuned. Thank you. Okay, let's get started on our hexagon. First, we're going to make a slip knot. And you make your slip knot any way you like. This is my method. This is the way I teach people when I teach beginning classes, to make a slip knot. Okay, and we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I have tried doing this in the magic circle method, and it didn't work. It turned out looking more like a circle than a hexagon. But you'll see with this method, it turns out more hexagon shaped to begin with. Okay, so what you're going to do is double crochet into this 4th chain here. So as you can see, now we have our chain space, our chain stitches, and our double crochet. And this is going to count as your first set of double crochets. So you're going to chain 2. Okay, come back to the same open space here. 1 double crochet and 2. Come on now. And as you can see, before I chain 2, I'm going to show you. This is slipping on us because it's a slip knot, but chain 2. Try your best to not let this slide out too much, because this is the center that we have to go through. And I'll show you in a minute how it looks like the sets of double crochet. Second one. So now here we have 1 set, 2 set, 3 set, 4 set of double crochets. And like I said, just keep tightening up this center ring here, because it's gonna want to loosen up on you. So let me do 2 more, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. So now you can see we have our 6 double crochets with 2 chains in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets. To close it off, you're going to go in between your chain and your first double crochet and go in there and slip stitch. Okay, so there is our first inside round here. And you could kind of see it starting to have the sides. We've got the top, the bottom, and then 2 whoops, and then 2 sides. So it's starting to look, you can see the sides of the hexagon starting. It'll be more pronounced each round we make. So now I'm going to switch colors and go on to the next round. Okay, now I've switched to my lilac color. What I did was on the other side, I wove in that end that was from the middle, from the slip knot that we originally did. And then I'm going to attach. You could either do it that way. I don't mind. I'm one of those weird people that don't mind weaving in their ends. But if you'd rather tie them up and then put like a little dab of glue, I'll show you what I mean here after I'm done with this row. But what you do is when you start this row, I'm getting ahead of myself here, you put 2 chains, okay, and you're going to go in between the sets of the double crochets. You start anywhere. 2 chains, and then we're going to puff stitch in that same open space. So it's like you start a double crochet, but you go around again and through and again and through and again and through. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on your hook. Pull those all the way through. Chain 1 to hold it together. Okay, and you're going to do another one in that same space, like you're doing it starting a double crochet, but go over again and through, again and through, again and through. That gives you 7 on your hook. Pull over, chain 1. Okay, let's do that again, but I'm going to show you the right way this time. Okay, you're going to go in between and come up like you're starting a double crochet, but just keep going. This is how we do the puff. Again and again. Okay, so you're going to have your 7 stitches for your puff stitch, 7 loops. Pull through, and we don't do 1, we do 2. We do 2 chains after the first puff, and then 1 chain after the second one. So you're going to puff all the way around in between the sets of double crochet, and I'll meet you at the end. I realized after doing this clip that it became... Okay, here we are at the end. What you're going to do is go into the beginning of that first puff that you started. See, here's 2 here. Just go in the first section of it and slip stitch it together. Okay, great. Now we're going to fasten off, and I'm going to show you how to tie in the back. So as you could tell, I decided to just weave in the end of that other brown yarn I had at the beginning instead of tying it off. So this is the back. Nobody's going to see it, I guess, depending on what you're making, but this is going to be a purse, so I tied that in. Okay, and so you can kind of see again how it's somewhat starting to be hexagon-y. I don't know if that's a word. But what you can do on the back is, if you prefer, as opposed to weaving them in, you can, I just do a double knot. Like so. Pull real tight, and then you snip off, and then put a little bit of that fabric glue on here. Where'd it go? Okay. Put a little bit of fabric glue on here, and you're set. And you can't even see it from the other side. Now, if you prefer, you can weave in the ends. Sometimes I do that just to make it cleaner, so there's no, fraying and no hard spots of glue. But it's your preference. It's your choice. But this is starting to look good. Let's switch to our next color. Okay, so in this next row, I've got my pink here. We're going to go in between the V puffs. See how the little puffs look like a V? And pardon me for my nail. I took a little break and burnt my nail off. So try to ignore that. And also, you can either slip knot to start your next color, your next round, or you could just, pull it through. The last row, I just pulled it through. So this is going to be another row of puffs, but you got to start in between the 2 V's, okay? And then you're going to chain 2 and start your puff stitch right in that same area. 2. And remember, you want to have 7 loops on your hook. Pull through, chain 2, because we're going to do another puff stitch in that same in between the V space. One more time around. Okay, got our 7. Pull through and then just chain 1. So, and now we're also going to go in between the spaces of the V's, but just with 1 puff. Okay, so there's the in between. Act like you're doing a double crochet and then do 1, 2, 7. So you just move on down, you put 2 stitches in the V space, 2 puff stitches in the V space, 1 puff in the in-between spaces. So again, you're going in between and 2. So this is your first puff, you're going to chain 2. And then your next one in the same V. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, I'll meet you around here at the end. So the only time you do a chain 2 is in between your V's that's inside the other V. And this will start looking more hexagonish here in a minute. Okay, so I'm at the end of the row. You're going to go into that stitch where you started and do a little slip stitch. Like so, like so. And then I'm going to snip off and I'm going to actually weave these 2 in. And I'll meet you back for our last color. But look how nice this is. This is looking as a hexagon. Okay, so what I did was, I kind of combined my method. I tied the 2 ends together. One was short and one was long. And then I wove in the long end and snipped off the short end. So now look how nice our little hexagon is looking. Got the sides. Yeah. So now we're going to do the 4th row, and you can keep it at 3 rows if you want to, or you can make another row. I've made mine in rows of 4 just because that's what the original pattern was. Yeah, I think that looks pretty nice. I'm going to make a round of gray, and then I will meet you back here when it's done, and we're going to block it. Okay, welcome back. Now that my hexagon is done, we're going to block it. And what we need is a blocking board. I have these foam ones, and I have several. These last couple days I made the rest of my hexagons. And you need some pins. I like using the T-pins. And then you need a spray bottle or a steam iron or something to wet your excuse me, your block down with. Okay, let's get started. Okay, folks, I also forgot to mention you need a tape measure. So I put my hexagon on here, and what you're going to do is kind of measure to make sure they're all pretty similar. Like, for instance, this is 5 inches, 5 inches, and then measure each side. I had to adjust a little bit. These are about 3 inches on each side. I mean, and you want to be in the range, you know, a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch in the range. 3 inches, about 3 inches. Okay, that way, and this is going to be my sample block that I use with all the other ones to measure against, to make sure I have the other ones the same size as this one. So it looks like we're pretty ready to spray, and then you can kind of move it around again once you spray it and get it wet. Okay, so I like to use warm water when I spray. Steam iron, pretty much the same effect. And then I go over to my bathtub and just soak it down so we don't get water everywhere. You could also take it outside. I just give it a nice few squirts. You can see it's getting wet. You want it pretty soaked, but not dripping. So there you go. That's about how much I put on. And let's see. Yeah, that feels pretty good. And we just give it 24 hours, let it dry, and then do the same with the other ones. Now, I also have another video I'll post up here in the corner about blocking a square. And it's just a short video on blocking squares when I made a blanket a few months ago. So you can also check that out. Okay, I went ahead and did 3 of them since I had everything out. And they're all wet and they're drying. I forgot to mention these boards, these foam boards, you could get a 4-pack at Walmart for like $15. Price has gone up a tad. But, you know, they're good forever. Pretty little workhorse of a product. So these 3 are dry. And I want to thank you for joining me today on the prequel to the hexagon purse. And to get the rest of the video, part 2, you're going to have to back up a couple months to this video here titled My First Hexagon Purse. And that'll show you from the point of connecting, and it shows you the liner, and it shows you putting on the stitches and everything. So check out that one. And thank you for joining me to make my hexagon pieces for my next purse. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like today, and the like button, and comment please on what you think of these hexagons, or what's your favorite hexagon or square to make. Thank you. Bye-bye.